Archangel Gabriel wants you to know miracles are here. So he's asking me to ask you, what's the miracle that you're wanting? Now he wants me to remind you, if you haven't, if you've heard this before, or you've their first time here, that a miracle is anything that you desire that you haven't believed is possible. Now, anything that you desire that's not in your life, obviously there's some level of belief that you don't think you can have it, because that's why you don't have it. But Archangel Gabriel today is going to share with you today about what miracles are, okay, a little bit more in depth than just what I said, and what do you need to do to start welcoming them in. So to start to see it from a different perspective than you have been, all right? So I'm Deepa. I call myself the Creative Mystic. And I call myself the Creative Mystic because I combined mysticism, which is seeking your own direct experience of the divine, whether that's in spirit guides or feeling that joy and love and deep meditation, whatever the direct experience is, and combining it with creativity, the gift of creativity that everybody in a human body, in a body, has that gift, all right? And so I call myself that because I have found in my own life experience that combining the two together is what opened up my gifts to gifts I thought I never had, and has helped me on the path of awakening to continue my growth, my spiritual awakening. And I want it to help you. So I was guided a while ago by Archangel Gabriel to actually start to share the creation process of this spirit guide portal and any spiritual ahas they have, downloads for me to give, and also my own life experiences. Because how do we really learn? How do we really know? When we experience it, right? So it's about they're giving guidance on how you can start to experience it, because that's what will change your life, okay? The study of different ideas, spiritual truths, but the experience is really what transforms you. So we're going to start with creating an experience, which is we're going to invoke in Archangel Gabriel and the Flying Horse Spirit Guides, because this is a portal we're creating, and they came to me wanting to help you to start to believe and to know that your miracles are here, that all things are possible, that whatever you've desired but haven't been able to realize in your life yet, to not give up on it. That's what they're telling me, okay? So let's invoke them in. I do that by ringing a bell. I invite you, if you have a bell, to ring it too, because this is about creating sacred space. We're in my art studio right now, which is my sacred space for creating the spirit guide portals. But the most important thing is to create sacred space where you are. And that sacred space is where your physical space is, and most importantly, the sacred space within yourself. And so that's part of what I do when I create these spirit guide portals, is getting myself into that sacred energy so that whatever vibration that they're guiding me to infuse into this portal gets infused in there. And that not only creates the portal, but transforms me. And as you share this with me and the spirit guides, it will transform you. The more open you are, the more possibility of transformation. Okay? So when I ring this bell, if you have your own, ring it, I invite you to say, "Hello, Archangel Gabriel," because it's a tradition in India where they ring the bell when they enter a space to say, "Hello, God." And so we're going to ring that bell rather, for this space to say hello to Archangel Gabriel. Okay? So let's ring this bell. Hello, Archangel Gabriel. Hello, the flying horse. We invoke thy presence. We welcome thee. We are open to thee. We allow thee to flow into our space, into our physical space, and into our inner space. We invoke thy presence. And then we say, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And I'm going to light a little ghee lamp here. hello to whoever just put their name up there. I can't read your name because it's in a different language. But thank you for giving a shout out. I don't know where you're from. But this ghee lamp is about invoking the energy of divine presence and fire, transformation. Think about it. Fire transforms. So we're going to invite in Archangel Gabriel into this. We're going to chant 3 ohms out loud. If you'd like to participate with me, I'd love it. Because even though I can't hear you physically with my ears, energetically it comes through the ethers into this space. So we welcome in Archangel Gabriel, the spirit guide of Archangel Gabriel, the flying horse spirit guide who is here to aid you in believing and knowing that miracles are here. Om, 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 Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugundim Pushtivardhanam Urva Rekabandhanat Richo Mokshamamritat Om Bhuvaha Om Swaha Om Maha Om Janaha Om Tapaha Om Satyam Om Tatsavitur Vadinyam Bhargo Devasya Dimahi Dio Yona Prachodayat Om. And we're going to bring in the energy that comes from burning the Palo Santo. I love the smell of the Palo Santo, but it helps remove any negative energies and welcomes in the divine energy. And it's all about how do we release the habit of contractedness, of negativity, of downward pulling energy. We clean our energies, clean your energies. It goes through the ethers. Invite them in. So, Archangel Gabriel is really talking about, the first thing about is being able to know what a miracle is. And he says that most people think a miracle is, raising someone from the dead, because they talk about that like in the Bible and stuff, how Jesus raised someone from the dead. But he really wants you to get that you've probably heard people say, and you may have even said it yourself, when something you didn't believe could happen and it happens, what do you often say, or what do most people say? Oh, it was a miracle, right? But he wants you to get that anytime you don't believe something can happen that you truly desire, that's a miracle. But the first step is realizing that just acknowledging in yourself that these things are possible, that whatever you desire is possible, is the first miracle that's happening, is that you start to go, maybe it is possible, okay? Because just to have that consciousness shift, because we've all been programmed with a certain belief system, and he's saying that by that belief system is how you manifest, how you create what comes into your life. And so if you've been caught in a certain income level, he's saying, then you believe that that's the amount you can make. And typically, but he's sharing with me a statistic that was found many years ago, that they find most kids, not all, obviously there's some there are billionaires out there that didn't come from billionaire families, okay? But that most kids, because of the programming they get to belong to their family, only make 10 to 15% more than what their family has made when you count in inflation. And so that's like a belief system that keeps you at that particular place. So he wants you to understand that whenever you overcome that belief system, that standard of living that you were given growing up, that's a miracle. And you want to start to acknowledge it, like, wow, look what I did. I made transformation, even though my programming was something different. You transformed your subconscious mind. You transformed your belief system. And he's saying he doesn't want you to take that lightly, because as you might know, whenever you have a belief system, or you have, let's say you get fixated on something, right, and you start to worry about something, that worry is a belief system that you're given, that if you worry or you get frustrated or you have anxiety, that somehow that's going to make it better. Or somehow that's what you're supposed to do, is to worry about something. And that somehow it's going to make it so it doesn't happen. But that's the farthest thing from the truth. So when you break out of that pattern, that habitual pattern that you've had your whole life, then he says that is a miracle. Because for most, it is very difficult to do. If you've ever been in the land of, like, I want to create something different, really radically different, it feels hard for most people. Isn't that true for you? It feels hard? I'd love to see if anyone likes to put in the comments. I'm not quite sure what some of the comments are up here with these people, but thank you for sharing. So just think about that in your life, because the way to make miracles start to come is, one, you have to first, they're saying, get clear on what that miracle is you want. Okay, and really own and commit that it is possible, even if you don't know the how. See, that alone, they're saying, is a miracle, that you can go, if I don't know the how, I can still believe and know this is possible. See, and when you can get into that vibration, you bring more of the possibility of miracles to you. And so that's what they're really wanting you to start to understand. Now, excuse my sinuses. I have a little cold. The great thing about technology now is I can do this live, and I'm not putting any of you at risk of catching this cold because you're not going to get that through the ethers most likely. So they're wanting you to start to really think about, they want you to take the time to take a moment, check in with yourself, and like, what is the thing that I'm truly desiring? Now, my heart's desire is desiring, not because my neighbor has it or my friend has it, I want it. What is true in your heart that you've been desiring? So it might be anything from, I really want a promotion, or I really want to have my own business, or it might be, I want spiritual enlightenment. It's one of the desires I have, right? To be enlightened in this lifetime. Because people think, oh, I can't, that's never going to happen. And of course it's not going to happen if you don't ever own that you want it. I know I desire it. And so do you have something like that? Something where maybe you want more patience or a more open heart? Because maybe you've had the habit of closing your heart off. Oh, thank you, Wanda Taylor, for subscribing. Yes, thank you so much. Yes, anybody, I do this weekly. I would say I'm not going to do it Christmas, so it won't be, it won't be happening Christmas, and I don't know what year New Year's is happening, but I do. So if you'd like to get more of this, please subscribe. I've been doing it weekly, except for on holidays and things like that. So, but they're really wanting you to think about that. Take the time and to write down the true heart's desires that you have. And they're saying, especially the ones that you don't think can happen, that your logical mind is going, how is that going to happen? See, because the miracle is your willingness to go, wait a minute, everything that's been created on the planet, at one point people thought, not possible, right? Wright brothers flying an airplane. Way back then, people thought they were nuts. Way back before, now this is, if you're young, you're not going to even know about fax machines. Those have already kind of been and gone, right, defunct. But before, when it first came out, I was like, woohoo! And then we have now these cell phones that are like mini computers that do all kinds of things. So it's that possibility of, even if we don't know how. Now, Archangel Gabriel wants to bless you with that. with the idea that miracles are here. Okay. Now they're wanting me to start painting, and that's one of the things I do is I start to create them, paint them here with you. And as I'm painting, they give me more downloads of what to share with you, because this whole time they said this week they want to talk about miracles are here and all things are possible. So they're asking you if you've come up with a couple of things or one thing that you know that is something you desire. If you want to share it in the comments, please do. If it's too private, that's okay, but make sure you share it with yourself in that you write it down. And they're saying write it down because what happens is you have that moment of acknowledging what you truly desire, and what happens? Life gets busy, it falls to the recesses, you forget. And so they're saying, if you don't want to put it here up in the comments, to actually write it down yourself. Okay? Write it down so that you can keep that miracle in front of you, that desire. Because to make miracles happen, you have to keep your energy on it. And they're actually talking about Jesus in the Bible raising Lazarus from the dead. He didn't focus on the energy of him being dead, right? He focused on life, on bringing life into the body. And so it's that way for your miracle. They're saying you've got to focus on the very thing you desire, and whatever it is. You know, if it's health and wellness, if you hear stories of people who have been crippled and told they're never going to walk again, and they keep focusing on that they're going to walk and keep imagining their body walking. And there's stories of people who have gotten that miracle of walking when they've been told they're not going to. And so they're saying Jesus didn't focus on the fact that Lazarus was dead. He focused on the life of Lazarus, and that's what brought him back to life. So he's saying that's what you have to start to do with your miracle. Not that you're trying to bring someone back from the dead, he's saying. But he's saying whatever you desire. If you're wanting more money, you focus on not the lack of money, but that you desire more money. Whether it's your own business or a raise at your job, winning the lottery, whatever it is, he's saying focus on the desired outcome, because that's what you have to do to have your miracle be here. Because what he wants you to get, he's saying this to me, that your miracle is already here energetically. And people forget that. They think that that if that in order to have a miracle, that it's not here, that it has to get created, but it's already created on the energetic plane. It's just how do you become a vibrational match so that you can actually be in that reality that it's here. So be willing to take a moment and really write that down for yourself of what's the miracle that you're desiring. And he's saying that any place that you have dissatisfaction in your life, then you probably want a miracle. A miracle of changing that dissatisfaction to satisfaction. From dissatisfaction to satisfaction. And it could be from unhappiness to happiness, from contractiveness to expansiveness. He's saying whatever the thing that is missing in your life that you're dissatisfied with, to start to own that you can have the miracle. That's already here. You just have to, how do I get into that energetic place? Now, Archangel Gabriel and the Flying Horse are here wanting to share with you that you don't have to do this alone. And that's the big thing that they're wanting me to get, because they wanted me to share today about the creativity and mysticism. And I usually just call myself the creative mystic, and I don't share like why it is or what it really means. But, you know, creativity and mysticism is all about bringing them together and bringing ourselves onto the path of awakening, because that path of awakening is what is going to help you to start to believe that your miracles are here. So, and please, if you're on there, please give a shout out to your name and where you're from. I always like to see where people are from. And the great thing about doing the shout out is sometimes when you put a shout out of I'm from here or there, someone's actually from there, the place you're from. So that's why I have people do that, because I'm like, if I can help more spiritual souls connect, it's going to help the energy on the planet. Because it's all about how do we transform ourselves so we can transform the planet. Transform the energy of bringing more love and joy and peace to the planet. So I've gotten to do some work on Archangel Gabriel. If anybody has a question, feel free to do it in the comments. So one of the things I wanted me to share with you right now is about the whole thing of creativity, because I wanted me to really talk about that today, about the power of your creativity and what it can do for your spiritual growth, for your miracles are here, is that creativity, when you focus on combining creativity and the spiritual practices, experiences, it puts you in divine flow, right? So one of the things like why I do the ring the bell at the beginning, do the prayers, do the chants that I do, is all about how am I getting myself into the divine flow, the divine vibration, because it's not about trying to do it on your own. Or thinking that you're lacking something, but to connect with higher consciousness. One of the things that the spirit guides have always told me is the reason why they want to come to be here to help you is because we get into our programming, our subconscious mind, that makes us think things aren't possible. To start to go, how's that going to happen? And that when you connect with your guides, when you connect with spirit, you start to go, oh, let me get out of the contractive thinking of things aren't possible and into possibility that it is possible. Because they're saying the biggest reasons why your miracles are not there is because you're not in the land of possibility. You have to be in the land of possibility. The idea that something can be different. Now they're saying one of the best things you can do for things to start being different is to start doing different things in your life. So what they mean by that is it can be something simple, like if you commute to work, I'm going to go to work a different way or come home a different way. To start to just be in the idea that something can be different. They're saying the worst thing that can happen of why you will get stuck in not thinking things are possible is because you keep doing the exact same thing every single day. So, and what they mean by that, they know that you might have some slightly different things you do, but as a whole, you don't do too much different, right? You go to work, you come home, you make food, you wash the dishes, you clean up. But they're saying it's so important to be in possibility that something can be different. So you have to start with, let me start to do something different in my daily life. So pick something, they're saying. Pick something that you can do different in your daily life. Whatever you think that would be the best for you. So Archangel Gabriel's coming through and saying how like he's talking about the fact that right now I'm just working on all these little fine details. I'm not like looking at the bigger picture, just doing small little things that transform something. And he's saying that for your miracles are here, you want to start looking at the small details that you can actually start to do differently. So whatever that is, so if it's changing one little habit of doing, like they said earlier, about something new and different, going some different way, but what's the little small thing? Because people tend to think to get a miracle you have to have huge, big, sweeping change to make it happen. And he's saying it really is in the small detail. He's saying what gives life to these portals are the small details that we add in, not the big sweeping change. He's saying how when I first start painting, it's really fun for me because I start by, just putting lots of paint down. And it's really, really fun to put a lot of paint down. It goes really fast, put the background in, get everything done. He said, but what really makes the difference is, he says, the small details. He says that's what starts to bring life to the painting, are the details. So he's asking you to think about what are the details that you need to start to look at in your life to welcome in your miracles. And he's talking about welcoming in your miracles is about acknowledging that, first of all, that you want one, okay? And wanting a miracle is just wanting something to be different than you're having right now. Right? So if you're not happy with something, then you're actually wanting a difference, right? So he's asking you to start thinking about that. Like, what's the different thing you're wanting in your life? And start to affirm that that's possible. And then make one little detailed change that you can start to do that will bring you to the consciousness of believing that it can be in your life, of that actually being in the possibility of expansiveness rather than it can't happen or how's that going to happen. That what's that one little thing? Could be an affirmation, it could be an acknowledgement of the programming that you have that has been stopping you. And he says that's one of the biggest miracles is when you can actually start to have the awareness to see what is stopping you, what's been holding you back. Because he said we all have our blind spot, which is ourself, right? Where we don't see the very thing that's holding us back. So what is that for you? And make one small change with that. Hopefully that's making sense. So you'll see me step out of the frame, and that's because when you oil paint, you got to step back and look at it to get perspective. And that's kind of like your life, right? In order to start to make change and get those miracles, you got to step back and go, what's the miracle I'm really wanting? Because it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day life that you don't even know what will make it better. You don't even know really what you want. I hear so many people say that they like go, well, I don't know what I want. They got a list of everything they don't want, but they don't know what they want. Is that you? And if that is, how can you start connecting with the energy of what you want? Right? You can't have the miracle if you aren't putting energy on what it is you want. You won't even know what you want the miracle to be if you don't have your energy in the right place. So that's the first thing that Archangel Gabriel is saying that you got to start doing, is change that habit of, rather than focusing on what you don't want, focus on what you want. So he's saying one of the habits you can change, which is actually something that's challenging to do, but simple. It's not something that you go, oh my God, I need to be a rocket scientist to understand how to do this. But is to start communicating with what you want rather than what you don't want. Listen to your speech. You'll probably hear yourself talk about what you don't want more than what you want. Hi, Lil, you're back. You're from Belgium, right? Good to see you again. So, yeah, they're talking today. I think you just got in, so at least I didn't see you earlier. They're really talking about how can you start changing to get your miracles are here, to start to get in that energy. You want to start talking about what it is you want rather than what you don't want. And try to express what you want more than what you don't want. So and this has been a practice for me. You know, I was programmed with a family that complained a lot, that talked about what was wrong, what was bad, and so I still, sometimes it's easy for me to say what I want, and sometimes I have to pause and go, okay, I was getting ready to communicate that in what I don't want, and I want to change that. How can I change that? And I'll have to pause and think for a minute, like, okay, what I want is actually this, rather than communicating what I don't want. So that's what they're actually recommending that you guys do over the next week, and the next time we're going to meet, which is next week, is to practice communicating everything you want rather than what you don't want. That's the beginning of the miracles starting to show up, is talking about what you want. I thought that was interesting when they shared earlier about, Jesus in the Bible, when he raised Lazarus from the dead, he didn't focus on the death of Lazarus, he focused on the life in Lazarus. The very thing he wanted to do was to bring him back to life, which is what you have to do, focus on what you want. So, it's so true. Our programming is to focus on what we don't want. But in order to get the miracle, you got to focus on what you want. I'm hoping, and it will obviously be up to the spirit guides that I'm creating, I'm hoping that maybe we can get this done before Christmas. But we will see. All the little details that you work on, you never know until there's just a time when you go, ah, she feels done. And until then, you work on adding the details. And Archangel Gabriel is saying, and isn't that our life? You know, we're always working on the little details of our life. And when they say details of our life, they're not talking about you want to nitpick at yourself. They're talking about you want to look at the areas, just like what they're saying earlier, that you're dissatisfied with, that you want to improve, that to think that they are possible to change. And it's not just because you're stuck with where you are, because of how you are, that if you have a desire, a heart's desires, it can be changed. But he says you got to be willing to put forth some energy, because when you do something out of a habit, it takes very little energy. And when you bring something new in that you want to change, it takes a little more concerted energy to make the difference. Ah, those wings look so much better. So they're saying to that habit they want you to change is the one about expressing what you desire rather than in a want, not a don't want. So they're asking if anybody's live, if you're willing, and you may not be willing, but if you are. Oh, thanks, Lil. Yeah, I love that, to do this. This is just the part of just being with the spirit guide, and they tell me what to do next. I don't get into, like, any of, all the theory of art and how you should be doing it. I just follow what they guide me to do. Like right now, Flying Horse said, work on my wings too. I want my wings to look a little better. So they're saying, if you're willing to put on in the comments, and if you're not, that's okay, but then do it at home if you're not willing to put it in the comments. But to write down one thing that you express in a don't want that you're now going to start expressing in what you want. Because, it's such a habit that you have to acknowledge that you're doing it to change it. So is there something like they're giving the examples. A lot of times if someone's in debt, they talk about, I don't want to have debt anymore. Well, let's talk about what you really want. Okay, you do want to be debt-free, but what you really want, right? What you really want is to have the financial money coming in that you can buy whatever you desire without needing to use credit cards, right? So you want like ample amount of financial abundance coming in or income coming in. If you're unhappy with your job, what are you wanting? You want a job that you love, the work that you're doing, and get paid large amounts of money. So they just give me those couple examples. Anybody got something you want to put down? And if you don't, that's okay. They're always giving me guidance of something to get you people to have an experience, do something different. Because one of the things they're telling me is if you want what truly transforms you is your experience. It's not just hearing the message from the spirit guides. It's the willingness to go, I'm going to be willing to do something different. Have a different experience. They're saying that experiences are the key to true learning and transformation. And that is where miracles start to come, is when you start to have a transformation in your consciousness. So they're kind of talking about that, like they want to really start to help you have that the miracles are here by helping you transform your consciousness, because that is the very thing that makes it so you don't think that your miracles are here, is your consciousness, your belief system. I gotta look at it from a distance just to see. It's always a reminder to take a step back, to look at your life. Excuse my coughing and sniffling if you hear me. I have a cold, and I wanted to come on anyway, so I did. Even though I had a cold, because I figured the great thing about technology nowadays is, you know, I can still share the blessings of the spirit guides and do something with you, but not have to worry that I'm going to give you my cold. Because, yes, we share energy through the ethers, but germs aren't usually shared through the ethers. So we can still do the class, or the spirit and art time is not really a class, but, and do it even if I have a little cold. So it's amazing what can happen when you start to... Oh, thank you, Will. Yeah, I hope so too. It's been going on for actually quite a few days. So I've just been really, I know, today I was like, I still want to do my live. I want to... One of the things I love about doing the live is creating the spirit guides. It's so much, it always puts me in a great space to create the spirit guide portals. Especially the reason why I wanted to come and do this too is I was given guidance by Archangel Gabriel and the Flying Horse to only create this portal when I'm doing the live. So I don't get to paint on it any other time except when I'm doing the live. So I was like, I really want to come and do this because I want to, I'm feeling called to get it done more. So Sorry for the coughing. Excuse me. Much better. So the spirit guides are just asking any questions. People who are on live, if you have a question before we sign off, we're going to be signing off pretty soon here. Okay. Of the spirit guides, go ahead and feel free to ask a question before we sign off. We will be on next week. I did put up a pre-recorded video for anybody who wants to understand the untold process of spiritual awakening. So you can go check that out too. If you haven't already subscribed or anything, please subscribe. I always like to, and if you know of anybody who would benefit from this, please be a blessing and share it with somebody. Give me a like if you can. It all helps my channel. So my little thumbs up. And turn on your notifications. All my little signs I like I'm creating. But yeah, let's see. How to be brave. Your question. Let me ask them. Well, how to be brave. Ask what they say. So they're saying that bravery isn't what most people think it is. They're saying bravery isn't the absence of fear. Bravery is the willingness to do something even though you're afraid. And so what they're saying, this first step in becoming brave is to get comfortable with your fear. Like to be willing to like sit in the fear that you're having and ask yourself that question of, what am I truly afraid of? And you kind of delve into that. And then, so they're giving me an example. If you're afraid of public speaking, okay, for instance, they're just making this up because we aren't talking to you. But if you're afraid of public speaking, how do you get brave to speak publicly? And first you have to ask yourself, well, what am I afraid of? And the first answer might be, I'm afraid of making a fool of myself. And then you ask yourself, well, why is making a fool of yourself, what are you afraid about making a fool of yourself? What is that? And then you might go, Well, I was taught to like, oh, you can't make a fool of yourself. That means you're XYZ, like you're less than, you're not enough, you're stupid, you're whatever it is. Um, and Archangel Gabriel's coming in and telling me, so like, I grew up being Asian American, but my grandparents were immigrants, and I'm half Chinese and half Japanese as far as, but both sides of those are about you don't want like save face, you don't want you keep the family business quiet, you don't share it in public, you don't do anything that brings shame to the family. That was the paradigm, even though they didn't say that to me every day. That was the paradigm I was given, and so it took bravery for me to start speaking up about things, to even speak up, even though I was afraid. But my paradigm started to go, well, wait a minute. That paradigm doesn't really get me what I want. That belief system of saving face. It doesn't help me heal. It doesn't help forge a better relationship with my parents because I'm thinking I always have to worry about what they think. So I started to go, I'm going to start speaking the truth, for the truth that was true for me, even though, that was the philosophy I grew up in. And so that bravery was a willingness to look at something differently and then act on it, even though I felt some fear. Okay? Because people think you're brave, you don't have any fear. And people who are brave act with fear. They have that. And they're saying the next phase, besides the questioning, is to connect with your higher power. So whatever you believe in higher power, whether it's the angels, your spirit guide, because you do have a spirit guide that's going to help move you forward. God, whatever, Buddha, Allah, whatever you use as your higher power's name, to connect with that and know they've got your back. So that's one of the things I say. I'm very connected to Mother Mary because I've created Mother Mary in many different forms. I always say Mother Mary's got my back. Divine Mother's got my back. So even when I'm afraid, I know it's going to be okay. I'm not alone. So is that helpful, Lil? If you have any other questions for clarification, let me know. I'll be happy to clarify it before we sign off. So I'll give you a minute or so to type something in case you're not clear. But the key that they're saying is bravery is actually the willingness to act even when you're afraid. Oh, I don't know how to see in Marfil. I'm so glad that helped you too. Well, you don't. Oh, well, if you're clear on what they answered about the bravery, how to be brave, did that help you with the idea of being brave? Like you get now that it's not about absence of fear, but it's about forming a relationship with that fear that you're having, I guess is a better way to say it, because our fears are communicating to us our belief system, our programming, and sometimes that fear is communicating, something life and death too, that you really need to be more careful in. Like I used to be a heavy-duty mountain biker. I'm not now. I only do little small rides. But sometimes you were riding on a single track, and if you've never done it, you don't know, but it's a narrow track, and sometimes we'd be on the side of a hill. I used to be in California. We used to ride up in the Lake Tahoe Mountains, and there's this thing called the Tahoe Rim Trail. Gorgeous. But you'd be riding on the actual rim of the mountain. So, if you messed up, you'd be going over the side of the mountain. So there's some fear there to put all your focus on that path, to be one with the bike and stay on the path so you don't run off the side of a mountain. So that fear is actually a survival fear that keeps you focused. But unfortunately, we've been programmed with so many fears to fear, from the time we're young, you're programmed with the fear to not talk to strangers, okay? Now, unfortunately, that's necessary at some level, but, so that fear gets then blown into the fear of, like, what if you get laid off from your job? Or the fear, but yet you can just, if you trust that Divine Mother's got your back, you go, well, it's going to be something better. In fact, I learned that when I was really young. I got laid off from a job that I was doing, a marketing job, and I wanted to buy a house before I was 30, and that marketing job I was doing was never going to give me enough money to buy that house before I was 30. Was not making enough money to come up with a down payment to buy a house in the most expensive, one of the most expensive housing markets, which was in California, the Bay Area at the time. And so, I had to get laid off from that job and get a new sales job that tripled my income in a matter of a couple years. And then I was able to put the money away. So when you have that faith, and that taught me that incident when I was in my 20s, because when it first happened, I didn't have faith. I had fear, and my spirit just kept nudging me and making the path narrower so I'd finally pick the sales job, because my guides knew this is going to get deeper her house, but before she's 30. And so you have to start trusting that the guides are speaking to you. Oh, so you're Asian too? Yeah, yeah. We've had some hidden things that get kind of sequestered away, I guess is the way to say it, and you don't even know it sometimes. So hopefully that was helpful. Yeah, when it comes to speaking truth. Good. Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad that was a good example for you. So really keep that in mind, okay? And remember, we're going to be on here next week, 3:30, okay? And so we'll see you then, all right? So we're going to wrap this up now. Thank you so much for the questions. I love when you guys interact. Give a shout out. Again, give me a thumbs and a like, and subscribe if you haven't, all right? Blessings from Archangel Gabriel the Flying Horse, and blessings from me to you. See you next week.